Hey there, it's Inverse. So this is it, the final best of the year collection of 2025. This time around I went with a different format. You will see throughout the video that I break down all the best features of the shaders and even their compatibilities with distant horizons and Voxy as well. Now without any further ado, let's dive into the video. And up next we have one of my favorite shaders on this year's list, Pyvtron VX. This shader is near perfect, whether it's sun or moon rays, skies and special events like Aurora Borealis, mornings and sunsets, the lighting and illumination under the water and above the water, storm overcast and its impact on the terrain, or anything in between. This shader just nailed the implementation. It's also one that is highly compatible with Matrix, providing everything it requires and more, resulting in unbelievable graphics and, surprisingly enough, stable performance and visuals too. This shader is somewhat similar to Zeus VGI HRR. Of course, Zeus remains superior, but it's good to see new shaders getting closer to that level, and who knows, soon enough may even surpass it. And while the Nether is sadly not supported, the end was very much a masterpiece. Just look at these visuals. My FPS were near 60 on my 3080, and it's quite generous for such a hardcore path tracing shader. If you have a 4080 or a 5070 Ti, you can expect way past 60. The only negative I can note is the water. While it looks fascinating, when you get too close you can see the waves glitching. Also, the depth of field options just plain old don't work. For the settings, you can enable the flashlight option, which will make it so that torches and other light sources become flashlights. You can also increase the saturation a notch. Things can be pale on the shader, especially during noon, so this will help mitigate that problem. Finally, you can adjust the texture's resolution to the size of your pack. I haven't noticed a direct difference, but enable it just in case. This shader sadly doesn't support distant horizons or Voxy. It would be too powerful if it did. Up next we have Proxima. This shader just nailed the skies. There's even a Milky Way effect that looks fascinating with realistic clouds in here. The water here is the most tropical of all. It also features a nice water caustics effect and somewhat visible underwater visuals. The shadows here are quite sharp and cover everything, even skin layers and name tags. The rain here isn't very different. However, the wind strength increases when a storm hits, and a pleasant rainbow will also appear after the weather is cleared. Sun rays are neat and sharp, so are moon rays too. Set rays also adjust in color based on the biome, becoming green on swamps and jungles. When I enabled the FPS overlay, I simply couldn't believe my eyes. I was getting near 200 FPS the whole time. Even when I enabled the physics mod, which this shader is compatible with, my FPS were still above 100. Optimization here is no joke. For the settings, you will want to enable the border fog. It eradicates those ugly and nuded chunks. Also disable cloud shadows. It can be annoying sometimes. If you want to test a realistic texture pack, enable the resource pack PBR profile. It will tweak all the right settings for you to get the best results. Distant Horizons was supported, though wasn't the best. You could easily see a difference between the vanilla chunks and the LODs. The only suggestion I would make is A. Enhance the contrast for dark spaces, B. Add a depth of field feature, C. Remove the reflections by default or at least add an option where people can disable it, and finally D. Add support for the end and make the nether less dark. Next up we have IterationT, the forbidden fruit of the shader community. This shader offered the most realistic visuals you can see, starting with the skies. Usually shaders only have the illusion of clouds, but here they very much exist and you can fly up to them, my friend. The shadows here are also very sharp. As you can see, even the 3D layers of my skin have shadows. This shader also works on the nether, as well as the end. And oh my god, was it fascinating. The black hole and the bright sunlight makes you feel like you are walking on the moon. The water is fine, but it's underwater that things get exciting, with realistic water caustics, sun rays, and high visibility that enables you to use this shader even on survival mode. The rain here is also therapeutic. The environment around you will get foggy, the floor will get wet, and realistic rain circles will be seen on the surface of the water. The lighting here is also quite superior. There are colored lights and dynamic lights that are voxelated, as in they interact with entities and blocks in real time. With my RTX 3080, I managed to pull 90 FPS on average. It's not necessarily an achievement, but seeing all of those visuals, I expected even my good old 3080 to struggle. There is support for basically every mod, most notably Timeless and Classics, where your cursors glow and your rifle is reflective. Distant Horizons has also been supported quite recently, but sadly no support for Voxy just yet. For the settings, just disable the title and that would be it. This shader is perfect. I simply can't name a single flaw, but one, which is that it's still on legal air. When I added it to the list, it was still on CurseForge, so I thought things were cleared up, but it got removed just a few days ago, suggesting the opposite. I really hope the author clears up his shader of stolen code. It's awesome otherwise. Up next we have Reverie, this time a semi-realistic shader, again supporting all 3 dimensions. I'm a big fan of the mornings and the evenings on this shader. The colors of the sky dynamically change and the whole scene makes you want to just sit down and watch it all. At night things get even prettier, with the fabulous aurora borealis slowly appearing on the heavens. And before you ask, no, those clouds aren't just an illusion. If you want to take a screenshot, then you will find the depth of field of this shader quite handy, blurring the background and resulting in a picturesque photo. Oddly enough, this shader was very visible in the dark and enclosed areas, even more visible than vanilla, which is plain hilarious. For guys or girls with low-end PCs, you can turn on the toaster preset, which will double the performance without halving the visuals. A profitable deal if you'd ask me. And for Paytrix enjoyers, this shader will be of great help, providing all the necessary reflections and 3D rendering needed to reveal the full potential of said texture pack. This shader does work with Distant Horizons pretty well, but sadly is incompatible with Voxy. Though it is an active project, so odds are we may see support for Voxy pretty soon. Alpha Piscium is yet another realistic shader. The skies here are also quite fascinating, with clouds being dynamic and feature multiple 3D layers as well as a neat Milky Way graphics. This shader also excels in terms of water shading, both the surface of the water and below the water as well. It's hyper-realistic and even turns invisible on small ponds. The shader also supports Distant Horizons. Not the best compatibility we've got so far, but I'm surprised it's even possible given the weight of this shader. I recommend for the author to enhance the depth of field here. The blur is very high and I couldn't bring it down in the settings no matter what I do. Speaking of which, on the settings you can enable watercolor 6 to enhance the underwater visuals even more. And if you want to take a screenshot that is noise free, you can enable the screenshot mode, which will freeze all visuals and allow for a clean picture. However, the author should work on improving the lighting underground as well as implementing the rain. Otherwise, it's excellent for screenshots. Usually, I would say something like, this shader works well with this pack. Here it's basically a requirement to have a PBR pack, Paytrix being one of the best options. The reason it is required is due to the pack's inability to render lights properly without a PBR pack. However, once you enable one, the visuals are really worth it. Albeit noisy and unstable, they can get you some awesome screenshots on cyberpunk maps like this one. Next up we have Allium. This shader has downright one of the best, if not the best skies of all shaders. Apart from the clouds, the visuals truly bloom during nighttime, as you will be seeing shooting stars, aurora borealis, and again, a fine Milky Way visual. The rain here is also quite something. The whole atmosphere changes with it. Fog gets foggier, the ground gets wet, and the sky gracefully clears and brightens up when the storm is finally over. This is also one of the few shaders that excelled at shade in the end. Things look fascinating here, though I wouldn't say the same about the Nether. But it's not a problem. The shader is receiving a steady stream of updates, so it's likely that the Nether will be fixed pretty soon. The performance here was about the same as IterationT, but you can use the very low preset to get more than double the performance, though expect the graphics to be butchered. There's also this option called Screenshot that maxes out the visuals in case you'd like to take a picture of something. For the settings, it's recommended you enable Aurora Borealis and the shooting stars as well. The sky instantly receives an upgrade when you do that. Distant Horizons is supported, while Voxy isn't. My suggestion for the author is to enhance visibility underground. While the cave visuals of the shader are awesome, you are unable to see anything unless you place a torch. Also, one more suggestion, please work on making the sunsets a little more reddish. This will surely beautify set events. This is a shader that brings the vibrant visuals from Bedrock to Java. The shader was accurate on all aspects of the vibrant visuals, be it the water visuals, the fabulous sun rays, the lighting during nighttime, and the fog as well. You can also add a resource pack to change the shape of the moon or the sun, though I'm afraid you can't do the same with the clouds. I tried adding in Better Clouds mod and it just didn't render at all. The shader is also surprisingly compatible with distant horizons. The visuals here are perfect. You can't even recognize the LODs in the distance. Now, in terms of the settings, I recommend you disable the PBR option first. The surface looks better without it. Second, you could go ahead and disable cloud shadows too. Unless you are using distant horizons, they are unnecessary. Additionally, you can enable Sun Fix, which adds this nice pixelated glow around the sun and the moon, making them look beautiful. The water can also be tweaked to have several different styles, be it realistic, generated, or borrowed from your resource packs. Finally, you can enable the colored block lights, which does just that, adding colored lights to the game. The optimization here is also not very good. The GPU isn't used up, and this isn't entirely a Minecraft issue either. Some of the shaders we'll see later eat up 100% easily. The underwater shading is also not supported, and it saddens me to say this project has been discontinued. Though, on the flip side, it is an open source project and the author encourages devs to take the project and update it if they wish, so this may not be the end of this beautiful shader. Glimmer is a hyper-realistic shader. The amount of details and resemblance to real life here is insane, and opposite to many shaders of its kind, Glimmer supports all 3 dimensions. The ocean here is incredible. The refractions coupled with the tropical blue color are what makes the water shading here superior. The sky is good, although not the best I would say. I like the sun rays, but there are no realistic cloud layers or dynamic cloud movement, though the shader is CNU, so everything is possible. There's also this exclusive feature where you can interact with the grass, and it's enabled by default with no need to tweak any settings for it. The nights here are dark, albeit pretty. The best settings to turn on is colored lights, and they will do exactly that. You can also turn on cubic clouds, which will result in these beautiful vanilla-friendly cloud layers. And finally, you could turn up the shadow distance, although this will impact the performance on higher render distances, so be careful. The distant horizon support here was one of the best on the list. Thanks to the realistic fog, the LODs blended almost seamlessly with the vanilla render distance. This shader is also the first on the list to be supportive of Voxy, basically a stronger version of distant horizons with less lag. My suggestion for the author is to improve indoor lighting, as well as distant shadows. Apart from that, I think it's a pretty solid project and you should definitely give it a try, my friend. Then in the end we have Spring V2. This was quite the surprise for me. It had everything you would want from a good quality shader. Awesome tropical waters with visible yet beautiful underwater fog, jaw-dropping skies, blissful sunsets, custom moon textures, and it goes without saying, great 3D cloud layers. The shader reminded me of the good old Chuka Peak shader, especially on the level of the water. The author here didn't make the end look like a planet, but they did something equally beautiful, which is engulfing the whole place with this purple fog. Being the masterpiece it is, Spring shaders still performed nicely. I got 140 FPS on average, so even if you have half the gear that I have, you would still be enjoying a 60 FPS experience. However, I have to point out a few imperfections. Things like weird water glitches when you fly high, dim and dark lighting and illumination, and finally, blurry nether visuals. Though I think the visuals on the nether dimension are quite excellent otherwise. For the settings, you can shuffle through the different presets. Those are not quality presets, instead they just adjust the colors. Additionally, you can go ahead and remove the PBR reflectivity. Finally, you can swap between 2 types of water waves. This shader works with distant horizons and is actually quite seamless. You would hardly notice the LODs unless you zoom in. Voxy was somewhat supported, but not entirely. As you can see, few glitches are quite apparent in here. And the final shader we have is Lite Shaders. I know I kind of bombarded you guys with highly realistic shaders, so it's about time we look at something vanilla friendly and simple. The first thing to note in here is the pleasant, vibrant atmosphere. The author did an incredible job enhancing the color adjustment of the original makeup shader. You will find it quite easy to run this shader on survival. You could even customize it to have cubic clouds and vanilla waters for further resemblance to the base game. The performance here is unsurprisingly good. and you can tweak the graphics down to its bare bones state, where you will basically be playing vanilla Minecraft with shadows and few effects. The only suggestion I have for the author here is to fix this bug where the sun and the moon's reflection is inconsistent with its shape. The mod page mentioned that this shader is compatible with distant horizons, but no matter what I did, it didn't work with it. And for reference, I was running 1.21.1 Fabric. This is in fact the best shader to use for a vanilla-friendly graphics enhancement, and its flexible settings make it suitable for almost everyone. And as an honorable mention, I'd like to talk about Reshaded shader paired with the Visual Effects Plus 6-pack. Reshaded adds shadows to the game with zero cost to the performance, and the Visual Effects Plus pack adds lots of atmospheric features to the game, beautifying Minecraft in the most vanilla way possible. The special thing about this combination is that the Visual Effects Plus is actually incompatible with all shaders. Reshaded is the only one that works with it thanks to the simplicity of its design. I wanted to mention this combination as it's just something new in the modding community, to have shadows and visual effects all the while preserving the vanilla graphics. And the final honorable mention is Eclipse shader. I'm sadly not going to go into details since I discovered this shader while I was deep into the video. It's basically a bliss shader edit, and while it looks unchanged at first, its lighting is what sets it apart, especially deep in the caves. It also has this neat voxylated dynamic light, just like IterationT shader, which is great since no shader on the list had that apart from said shader. I also noticed brighter end visuals as well as more tropical water. The shader also works well with distant horizons, as well as Voxy. There are also these features that I have never actually seen in any other shaders. Things like realistic grass, realistic snow, a flashlight option, and so many more. Obviously, this isn't the only best of the year project. If you want ModPacks of the year, or mods of the year, here are they. Thanks for watching. My favorite shader here was Pyvtron VX. I just enjoyed how it looks with Matrix, but what about you? Which one of these shaders appealed to you the most? Like and subscribe to tag along for 2026 modding breakdowns. And I'll see ya on the next one, my friend.